Ellipsis Institute was founded 3 years ago on the campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Floristone Mather Center for Women. Our ultimate goal is to build relationships across lines of difference in pursuit of a common goal. And that common goal is advocacy for all women in all roles on campus. We hope to provide connections and relationships that help to build a support network, navigate barriers to access, and also inspire co-conspirators to join us on our journey towards gender equity. Our terms of engagement today, we will ask you to please place your pronouns, if you desire to share them, in the participant box next to your name. Also, feel free to use the chat box to agree, to drop resources, to just build community with the other folks that are joining us today. Dr. Ray, our conference strategist, will be working the chat, tuning in to capture all of your comments, responses, and feedbacks. To ask your questions, also, please drop them in the chat box. We will have time for Q&A at the end of today's session. Who identifies as a woman of color? The political term woman of color surfaced in the violence against women movement in the late 1970s. Its purpose was to unify all women experiencing multiple layers of marginalization, with race and ethnicity as a common issue. In today's sociopolitical context, the use of women of color, and particularly with the X, is inclusive of those who identify as cisgender, genderqueer, gender nonconforming, transgender, and or femme, i.e. people who may use she or her pronouns. Woman with an X is often used by those who identify as part of the intersectional feminist movement, and it's written with the X to be intentionally subversive to the Eurocentric and patriarchal dominant narrative, and to transcend social constructs by uniting, through relationship, those women with the following shared global experiences: cultural appropriation, economic disenfranchisement, genocide, loss of autonomy, militarism, targets of war and police states, physical displacement, race, class, and gender-based oppression, and a stolen legacy. So this year's theme is If They Come in the Morning. In 2020, the threat to us as women and femmes of color and all oppressed people is arguably the highest we've experienced in our collective lifetime. We are being targeted via legal policies, media outlets, even systems, institutions, and individuals whom are expected to represent, serve, protect, and care for us. This year's conference theme, If They Come in the Morning, is taken from the inmate communication between two of the most iconic activists of our time, James Baldwin and Angela Davis. Used as a salutation in a letter penned to Davis while incarcerated, Baldwin eloquently calls us to collective action. If we know we must fight for your life as though it were our own, which it is, and render impassable with our bodies the corridor to the gas chamber. For if they take you in the morning, they will be coming for us that night. So building on last year's theme, it has always been the work of the Ellipsis Institute to create space for women of color as we build relationships across lines of difference. In order to continue to do that, we have determined that we must do these 4 things, particularly in Ellipsis 2020 with our events, but to ground us, moving us forward. We must clearly and unequivocally state that Black lives matter. We have and will continue to center the experiences of those women, femmes, and gender nonconforming Black folks in all of our work here at the Ellipsis Institute. We must realize and acknowledge the deep American past and our supposed place in the reality of American collective consciousness. We must examine institutional, systemic, and electoral politics, and also examine their effects on intersectional oppressed communities. Lastly, we must actualize our roles as those that are on the line for liberation by doing our own work first to eliminate our continued role and responsibility to ourselves, to this fight, and also to one another. Program that's coming up, we want you to save the date for a change of heart and mind, moving to eliminate racism. That's a panel that we'll have. We're really excited. Check the website. The registration's already open. We have a wonderful slate of panelists. So we definitely invite you back. Also, next slide, I want to talk a little bit about the March for Defending Black Women that's going to happen on August the 30th. The flyer is here. You can also check our socials. We've been posting it. If you have questions, totally let us know. But that event, again, is open to all people who want to be involved in defending Black women, who want to show up and be an activist on the line. So with that, I'll turn it over to today's facilitator, prospective Dr. Erin Phelps.
Hello, hello. Let me turn on my video so y'all can see me. Okay, can everybody see me? Okay, cool. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about not all Karens. And this it's kind of funny now. We've been making memes of different Karens, Beckys, and these are just white ladies just going and doing whatever. And that's not okay, because them doing whatever and exerting their power is killing Black and brown people and is encouraging violence against Black and brown people. So that's what we're talking about. This is for white ladies that may be Karens themselves, white ladies that know Karens, white ladies that may be related to some Karens, and people that might even see Karens acting within the community. So yes, and also please populate the chat box, raise your hand, whatever. This is supposed to be interactive. I'm just giving you the basis, but I do want comments and feedback. So not all Karens, the durability of white womanhood. Shantae is also here, but is not presenting, but also was a co-creator in this work. So what are we doing today? Our goals for the Lunch and Learn, we're gonna talk about those, talk about why this conversation is important, who is Karen, and understanding the historical conceptualization of who Karen is, how they operate, what mechanisms they use to mobilize institutions. We're gonna show a short clip of a Karen and kind of talk about that as a group of what we can do and how we can analyze those situations and prevent violence against Black and brown people. And then we're gonna debrief, of course, we always have to debrief. And we're gonna wrap up with some really exciting things that we have in store for you. So let's keep it moving. Okay, so the goals for the Lunch and Learn are pretty simple. We want to develop a conceptual understanding of what a Karen is and how Karens weaponize their white womanness against people of color. And we're doing this through the overarching framework of Black feminist thought. And that overarching framework tells us that, one, we have the same oppressor. So the same oppressor that is oppressing Black people is the same oppressor that is oppressing Black people, same oppressor that is oppressing queer people, same oppression. And that's why we all have to be in this together, because we're fighting the same person that is against us, contrary to a Karen's belief, right? And then we're also going to understand and apply how we know that that's the same oppressor for our ultimate liberation from oppression, suppression, and disenfranchisement. And we're also going to talk about how the body is political and what anti-racism works, how anti-racism looks, and what anti-racism looks like in practice. And if you have any questions, you want me to slow down, please feel free, and then somebody stop me, please. So here we have, what is her name? I totally forget what her name is. We got homegirl, calling against a little Black girl selling water outside of a grocery store. I looked up her story, and on CNN, I think she was crying and saying that she wasn't a racist. Okay, Karen. Next, we got what is this? Corner Store Caroline. Here we are. Thank you, Permit Patty. Permit Patty. Who is this? We have just got Karen's on some shenanigans, and I'm really, really mad about this. They said, mom drives 90 minutes to go to the beach and then critiques and complains about other people doing the same thing. So it's kind of encompassing this narrative that Karens are doing things that are extra. That doesn't need to be done. Who told you to drive there? Who told you to complain? Hello, Tara Beverly. And then we have this lady who I think was just terrorizing people at the pool. And then we have I actually titled this in my file as Karen Mosaic. So we have our Karen Mosaic. We have the people that were like, we're gonna bear arms and point guns at protesters, which is legal. Homegirl, Dr. Whoever, calling on people that are going just barbecuing at a public park. And I don't even know what homie was doing. I don't know. But these are the people that we're talking about. And although these instances are funny, on the surface, they actually have really, really dangerous implications. So why are we talking about this now? We're talking about this now because just like that, there are people that are not staying in their lane, and them not staying in their lane is killing people. So this is for white women and people with white privilege. This is for how we can teach and bring a space for people to learn how to care for Black people, because there's a lot of times whenever you hear to let's read about this or let's watch this video, but you don't really have a space. The Ellipsis Institute for Women of Color in the Academy has curated a space where we can be vulnerable, where we can talk, and where we can outline our oppressions and outline our privileges as well. So in the march in the movement for Black Lives, they demand, and we demand, an end to the war against Black people. We demand an end to the criminalization, incarceration, and killing of our people. We call for not just individual accountability of officers after murder, but the entire police department. And we're also saying we want Karens to be hold themselves accountable as well. So I put this in there because it's not just Black people and then police, and then Black people do something and the police are just there. No, there is an intermediary. There is somebody that is bringing the police into this situation, or there's somebody that is bringing violence into their lives. And this is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to get everybody on the same page to say, hey, although this may make you uncomfortable, although this may be something that you might not think is right, your actions are far more dangerous than the behaviors of the people that you're calling the police on. And really quickly, because I've also seen some misinformation about what anti-racism is, but anti-racism examines the power imbalances between racialized people, so people that have been racialized. It's an act of racializing. So we're given a color, we're made Black, we're made into these categories. That's what racialized means. And non-racialized white people. So these imbalances play out in the form of unearned privileges that white people benefit from and racialized people do not. So a person that is practicing anti-racism is someone who works to become aware of how lived experiences of people of color and Indigenous people, just understand the experiences of people of color and Indigenous people, period.com. Do you get my life? Do you understand the things that I have to do? Are you even hip to what is happening on a day-to-day basis? And then it also causes you to think about how racism is systemic and has been a foundational aspect of society throughout history, and it can be manifested in individuals, attitudes, behaviors, institutions, policies, practices, laws. We know all these things. Let's move on. Just want to give you a little bit of backing, theoretical background. And so the reason why we actually curated this space is because we are looking at this Black feminist framework. We are using this Black feminist framework. And one of the things that my sister, Dr. Phelps Ward, put me hip to is the Black feminist epistemology as theorized by Patricia Hill Collins. Patricia Hill Collins basically says that we need to come from concrete experience. We are epistemic centers. We are the people that know the most about our lived experiences. And so we should speak on that and not on other people's experiences or things that we have not researched or directly experienced ourselves. And then whenever we're doing that, we need to have a dialogue. How can we go back and forth with each other to create change and to progress in our conversation? And that is all underneath the umbrella of caring and personal accountability. You have to care for who is in the room with you. You have to care about the things that are happening and the content that is being presented. And then if you care, you will hold yourself accountable to the people that you care about and the content that you care about, the information that you care about, as your own personal ethic of accountability. So as the Ellipsis Institute, we're facilitating this. We're saying, hey, this may be step one for you, but we're going to be right along with you for step one because we need you to understand this because the decision to be for Black lives is in an instant. And, you know, you need to have all these tools before you can make that decision. And, you know, Patricia Hill Collins introduces a major critique of suggesting that talking about the standpoint of women implicitly is the standpoint of white women and obscures the experiences of Black women. So that's kind of really what's going on with Karens. So Karen is the ultimate. But we know that that is not the case. There are other people in the world than white women. So who exactly is Karen? Yes, hegemonic femininity. Who is Karen? Whiteness and white-womanness. So their defining essence is entitlement, selfishness, a desire to complain. According to Heather Suzanne Woods, a meme researcher at KSU, Karens demand the world exist according to their standards, with little to no regard of others. She's willing to ask or to risk or demean others to achieve her ends. Karens mobilize their power to mobilize different institutions. They use their whiteness and their white womanness as a weapon against Black people to get, like we said, what we want because they're entitled. They masculize and hypersexualize Black women. So whenever Black women are sexually assaulted, that narrative is continuously pushed by white women that are saying, oh, they can take it, or the Williams sisters are men, they look like men, they're masculine, or this in turns and creates a narrative which makes it okay for the sexual assault against Black women, because white women and white men have perpetuated this idea that Black women are, you know, so thick-skinned that sexual assault and sexual violence does not hurt them. And it paints Black men as also hypersexual, as something that they need to protect themselves from. So Andre Brock, an associate professor at Georgia Tech who studied Black Twitter, says Karen memes are freshly resonant now because they allow people of color the chance to indulge in dark comedy about the way the pandemic is disproportionately affecting them. So in reference to another varietal of Karen, the type of suburban liberal who uses the Nextdoor app and Ring security camera to surveil her neighbors and monitor their behavior. It's called deeply ironic because white women isolating in single family homes, whose lifestyle puts them at low risk of exposure to the virus, have been getting militant about teenagers wearing face masks or judgmental about city dwellers and ability to execute perfect social distancing. So they're using these laws to enforce them while simultaneously not enforcing them. Like, you should be wearing a mask. And if that's what the narrative that one Karen wants, and then there's other Karens are just like, I shouldn't have to wear a mask. So these same rhetorics, the same narrative is used to basically push this idea that Karen is, we got to make sure that Karen gets what they want, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about Karens throughout history, because we know that Karen is not the first iteration of entitled white women. And I would also like to say, in the references later on, it says that there are alpha Karens and beta Karens, and there are intergroup differences within Karens. But we're not talking about that, because alpha Karens and beta Karens are hateful Karens, and we need to make sure that they stop. So let's talk about Karens throughout history. While there's not too much literature and understanding about what that looked like, what a Karen looked like prior to Miss Anne in the 1885, here's where we're going to get started, because we know that these people, these archetypes, these controlling images were present, but this is the first documented that we have. So we got Miss Anne. Miss Anne is slang for a white woman who is aware of her whiteness and conveys it and is complicit in a system that preserve her status. Hey, Leek, parents typically, in that era, parents typically gave their daughters more enslaved people than land. And then in that time, white women fought in courts for legal ownership of enslaved people, often in opposition to their husbands and their fathers. So this upheld slavery as well. The equivalent of the Miss Anne in that time period was the Mr. Charlie. So Mr. Charlie is the equivalent of a white entitled white man who feels like they should be able to go out and do whatever. Master Charlie, Mr. Charlie, also is in the same group of people as Uncle Tom's, house Negroes. These are in the same kind of category because they're protecting whiteness. And by the protection of whiteness, by proxy, they're protecting violence against Black people. So yeah, let's keep it going. Now we have Becky's and Karen's. So I don't know if you remember the Sir Mix-a-Lot at the beginning of the video. Maybe I'm not really old enough to remember it, but oh my gosh, Becky, look at her butt. It's like just out there. It's so brown. I think she's like one of those rap guys' girlfriends. And when you see the video, Shorty don't even have that big of a butt, but that's okay. But that's what we're saying. This is how white women hypersexualize Black women and make it seem like whatever is happening to Black women that is negative is their fault because her ass is so big, because she was on this video, because she was the rapper's girlfriend, right? So these are our Beckys. Becky is slang for a happily ignorant and unaware white woman, but who's complicit within the system that upholds her status. She's often overly dramatic when confronted about her whiteness. And I don't know if you remember Mean Girls. Maybe this will be a more relevant example, a more contemporary example. But if you're from Africa, then why are you white? So that's the same kind of Becky. So there's this ignorance around Indigenous people, African people, what's going on with the world, the social, political context, and how their words and actions are actually really, really harmful. Now, a Karen is a kind of person who posts on Nextdoor about looking suspicious, or demands to be let into a grocery store without wearing a mask. So right here I have Kate Gosling, I think. This is the mother of John and Kate plus 8, I think, and she became the meme. Kate Gosling became the meme with the haircut, and it's like, oh, I gotta go get the manager haircut. And basically, I don't know if you can read this text, but it says one of her kids was saying, we would be in stores for hours because my mom was complaining about something. And that's the kind of time that a lot of people without that privilege don't have. Think about that. Have you ever been in a store or a restaurant and had the time to sit and complain for hours? Right. That's another aspect of privilege right there working. You got the time. Let's keep it going. So here's where we're going to get really, really into it. So how Karens use and mobilize institutions. So the mobilization of institutions without personal consequences um, is how they like to use their power. So it's the I need to speak to the manager. It's can I talk to whoever? It is, you know, going above all the different hierarchies and calling your boss and getting you fired. There are so many different aspects. It's got economic consequences. It has so many consequences. And this results in people of color being removed from places that they actually have a right to be. So that means employment, that could mean any sort of entertainment, like you have to leave the movie theater, that could mean a restaurant, you have to leave the restaurant. Um, and in this, they contact additional perpetrators of discrimination and oppression, like the police, like calling the EMS, and then the police and the fire department come. And this escalates the situation, because the situation more times than not does not need violence, does not need police, does not need a state militia to de-escalate the situation. And I put example Birth of a Nation. So Birth of a Nation, not the contemporary Birth of a Nation, but Birth of a Nation from, somebody give me the time period. It's like 18 something, and it's not 18 something. Anyway, this movie that is basically like a trailer and a recruitment for the Klan. And the Klan uses video, 1920s, thank you. The Klan uses video to basically perpetuate this: we need to protect white women, black men, black people are beasts, they're, you know, savages, which is also derogatory. And you need to come and join the Klan so that we can help keep our people safe, help keep our property safe, help keep our white women safe. And like I said, law enforcement gets involved, and then we have physical harm, wrongful imprisonment, death, all types of things. So some of the institutions that they can mobilize is the medical industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the legal system, and of course the militarized police state. Like, just for example, if a Karen is afraid somebody is going to hurt them, then, and they're having a mental episode, that might be, the police don't need to be there. But this person who may or may not be dangerous, Karen called on them, and now they're dead when they needed some meds, when they needed some therapy, when they needed a social worker to come and alleviate that situation. So this is how Karen and institutions are very, very tightly coupled. Let's move along. So this is a chance for us all to kind of like get in, talk. What did Miss Anne, Becky, Karen, and all of these other archetypes and controlling images look like prior to the 50s? What did they look like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the times whenever you were growing up? Or another way to ask that question is, how have you seen white women weaponize their whiteness and womanness throughout the decades? So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a chance to think about that, reflect on that, and then I'll take a look at the chat box, and then I'll come right on back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lisa said that they're well put together. Right. Right. That's what we mean when we say hashtag believe Black women. Believe people. Oh, I need to go see where this information is coming from because I don't trust it coming out of your mouth. And it's like that's Karen characteristics. Any other Karen characteristics? Ooh. Yeah. So oh yes, I see people putting comments in. So I'm gonna kind of like shout some of these out. But yeah, there are white women who fought against busing and fought against integration. Um, it says, I once saw an older white woman lecture a young black man at a Panera and prevent him from doing his work because he didn't say you're welcome to her when she said thank you. Yes, this policing, the policing of affect. Um, right. And even if, like, that's another thing, if you even say Becky or Karen, um, it's like all automatically derogatory, but it's just like, I didn't tell you to wear the shoe. You just made it fit. I didn't tell you to wear that shoe. You just made it fit. So, yeah, this Karenization, this messiness has been used as a mechanism to reinforce and perpetuate racism. Yes, these white women have been against their own interests and against the interests of black people for a long, long time. Hmm. Yeah, so Rebecca, we're going to be talking about that in our other sessions. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. Rebecca was talking about how Sir Mix-a-Lot is responsible for the bringing up the pejorative Becky and pitting Black women against each other. Yes, we will definitely talk about that in our next sessions. So let's keep moving. So we're gonna watch our video. So this is the Amy Cooper video. It's a content warning. It takes about 4 minutes if you wanna leave and come back. If you don't wanna watch the video, I totally understand. It's a hate crime based on race, and I should have also put there is some violence against an animal in the video. So I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to get yourself situated, and then I'm gonna go ahead and play the video.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the Ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
Let's ask ourselves some guiding questions. So what did you see during that video? What did you hear? How is this Karen mobilizing whiteness and racism? What else did you notice about the video? I know there's not a lot around it, but there is a lot around it. And other than the mobilization of whiteness, how else does this pertain to the Black Lives Matter movement? And why is it important for you specifically to protect Black lives? So actually, while we're kind of populating the chat box with these questions, in the next iteration of sessions, we're also going to talk about how the media put commentary and put different things that really didn't have anything to do with the situation around the video, and how that shapes what we think about the video. So in CNN, MSNBC's, all of those different outlets, how are they framing this thing? Because I know whenever I watched it, Amy Cooper, this Karen, was not demonized in the way that should have been. I mean, I don't necessarily think that she needs to be demonized. Yes, she did. Never mind. We gonna come back to that one. Yeah, I'm gonna tell them a Black man is being aggressive. So this also shows that this Karen knew exactly the power that she had in her white womanness. She said specifically, I can't say it's just a black man anymore. Or maybe I can, but I need to make sure to definitely say that this black man is being aggressive. Aggressive. Make sure you get the word aggressive on there, because when we're thinking about black men and aggressive, that could mean black men as beast, rapists, murderers, right? It reinforces that idea. Oh yeah, she's, Lacey talks about the panic in her voice when the operator doesn't understand the issue. Yeah, she's panicked. It's just like there's nobody else around you. You're strangling your dog. This calm man is asking you to put a leash on your dog, and you're escalating it yourself. So often, because Karens are making themselves the center of the issue, they create the problem, they escalate the problem. This could have just been, I'm not putting my leash on my dog, and she goes away. But she made it into a situation. She created the aggressiveness. She created this hostility by calling 911. She created all of this, and this was generated by her. Yes, she's very, very intentional about her actions. But what she wasn't intentional about is knowing that she's on camera strangling her dog, or strangling her dog. Where's the ASPCA? Where's PETA? Because that's not okay. And also, we can also talk about the dynamics of endangering an animal in pursuit of endangering a black person. We can talk about those dynamics as well. Also, this person was bird watching. So when we're saying protect Black lives, we're saying protect Black lives in the sense of Black people should be able to have a barbecue. Black people should be able to sleep in on campus. Black people should be able to birdwatch. Black people should be able to go to the pool. That is what we mean by protect Black people, because our hobbies aren't even things that we can find joy in, because we might be targeted for violence even while being involved in our hobbies and trying to find joy in that. So let's kind of debrief. Dr. Arki, if you want to like jump back in, and we're kind of just going to talk about engaging in anti-racism every day. I know that the video is short, and then the guiding questions were also short, but is there something that anybody wants that is really pressing, that whenever they saw this video, they want to tell other people? And what would you do if this was you and you saw this? Where do you find yourself in this situation? Do you find yourself in the proactive stage? Do you find yourself in the de-escalation stage? Or do you find yourself talking to this Karen after this happened, or talking to Christian Cooper after this happened? Where are you finding that your strengths are? Because we also know that not everybody is well equipped to do certain things, but we want to foster and bolster the tools and the skills that you already have, so you can actually protect Black lives. Y'all good? Give me a thumbs up and I'm gonna move on. If we're not, I will go back. So, yes, meeting others where they are. Yes, we have to meet others where they are. And I like that you said that, Karen, because we need to meet them where they are, because they need to get to point B much more quickly than they are, because the decisions to not be racist, the decisions to protect Black lives, the decisions to not generate and reproduce inequality happen in an instance. Prospective Dr. Ngana and I were also talking about how, this time between, I have privilege, and this time between knowing that what is right and what's wrong, and then actually making that decision, needs to be very, 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 very quick, because the quickness in which violence is presented to Black and brown people, we don't get that time to study and to have people meet us where we are and understanding our trauma. So I kind of want to bring this all the way back, because we're also underneath this umbrella of Black feminist thought and intersectionality. So in this slide, we see society's long-standing protection of white women. So in this slide, I don't know if you can see this slide very well, but it says making all facilities co-ed. All facilities receiving federal or state funds will be subject to ERA, college dorms, gym classes, restrooms, any of these public spaces. And so we need to know, we need to show you that intersectionality and Black feminist thought teach us that it's more important than just black and white. The anti-trans bathroom nightmare has its roots in racial segregation. Conflicts over bathrooms are rooted in beliefs that the vulnerability of Southern white womanhood and to Blackness, which by its mere presence had the power to contaminate, symbolizing a sexual threat regardless of gender. So this is where we're coming back and bringing it back to intersectionality, because we also know that our society protects white women at all costs. And that protection of white women has manifested in many different ways. And one of those ways that it has manifested is bathrooms. So trans people aren't allowed to go to any bathrooms because we need to make sure that we're protecting these innocent, docile, soft white women from being sexually assaulted by a trans person or a Black person. Because before they were segregating based on different genders, they were segregating based on race. And so we cannot talk about Karens and we cannot talk about all of these issues without talking about intersectionality and how all of these things are built on one another. So you cannot be somebody that has a Black Lives Matter sign in your yard and then you simultaneously are homophobic and transphobic, because the same oppression, like I said at the very beginning, that is oppressing and suppressing and disenfranchising you is the same oppressor that is oppressing all these other historically minoritized populations. So when we're thinking about intersectionality, I want to go ahead and talk about the trans people that have made where we are in our social movement and progressiveness happen. So we all know Marsha P. Johnson. Marsha P. fought for LGBT rights, queer rights, and was a Black trans woman. We memorialize her, we talk about her, we still don't know who her murderer was, which is really, really sad. But here's where the Karens come into play. Do you also know that Marsha P. Johnson's right-hand woman was Sylvia Rivera? And Sylvia, who has white privilege, light-skin privilege, although they were Latinx, Sylvia was homeless for a lot of her life and was on the front lines with Marsha P. fighting the same things. So I bring this up to say, this is another white femme that is experiencing so much oppression to even after Marsha was murdered, they were still in oppressed situations. They were still homeless. They were still doing activism. And so this is why you have to, it can't just be a white and Black thing, because this affects everybody. And their relationship specifically shows us how our society doesn't care about Black people and does not care about light-skinned people. And so we have the same oppressor, right? So actually just, last month, multiple Black trans women have been murdered. And that is where our intersectionality comes from. Black trans people are being murdered during a pandemic, within a pandemic, within a pandemic. So we need to make sure that at least we are not antagonizing Black people, queer people of color that are living their lives. Because not staying in our lane or, trying to assert or trying to police is ending up in death. And you're thinking, how can me, using my words, be tied to their death? Because even if it's not directly, you're not directly calling the police, you're still adding to a rhetoric. You're still having conversation with your friends. You're still voting. You're still doing all of these things. You're still teaching kids in school. You're still having your job. You still have your job. And we need to make sure that we understand all of our oppressions are the same. So the same people that are murdering these Black trans women, maybe tomorrow, or if they come for you at night, they're coming for you. Just because these are Black trans women does not mean that you as a cis white woman are immune to danger, are immune to violence, and immune to violence from the same people that are enacting violence against these Black trans women. You're not immune. And like I said last night in our live, when we were kind of talking about this session, just like Anita Hill and Dr. Blasey Ford, with the 2 Supreme Court judges that we now have, not even the tears of a white woman could get the country to mobilize and understand that women should be believed. Sexual assault against women happens often, frequently, and without convictions. And it's like, you can see that right dead on in your face. So the country did not, rally behind Blasey Ford, and we now have a rapist Supreme Court judge, or one rapist Supreme Court judge that we know of, right? And we just need to bring that all back. Everything is tied together. So here is what we are asking you to do with this session. This is Sylvia again. Sylvia at a rally saying, I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. If you have a Black Lives Matter sign in your yard, or if you have a Black box on anything, you need to ask yourself, are you willing to lose your job? Are you willing to go to jail? Are you willing to lose your economic livelihood in pursuit of protection of Black lives? Because that's what it's going to take, because we don't have the option. That's not an option. I have to lose my job because I have to see justice for myself and people look like me. I have to do this and this. You get a choice. And it's really, really beautiful that you get a choice. And what we're asking you is to make the choice to be on our side, to not be a Karen, and to not be a piece of the puzzle that is the narrative of violence against Black and brown people. And so I'm going to bring up Sweet Tamir. You're probably thinking, why are you bringing Tamir up right now? I'm bringing Tamir up because although you probably could not have prevented Tamir's murder, you could be talking to your kids, you could be talking to your sons, you could be going to city council meetings, you could be signing petitions, you could be doing a lot of different things. You could be making sure that school and the area around school is safe for all kids. Because this little Black boy could be your kid, and that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that Tamir was murdered. It is unacceptable that our dear sister Breonna Taylor was murdered. Fight as hard for your kids, or fight as hard for us. Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Brayla Stone, Mercy Mack, Shaki Peters, Drea McCarthy, Tatiana Hall, Bree Black. Those are the trans women in the slides before. Those are your sons and daughters. Those are your people. Those are the people that are in your chosen family. So you need to go to bat for them as if you would your own child, because that's what it's going to take. And so we're coming all the way back, and we're bringing all the way back to full circle. And how can you as a Karen, show up for Black women? How can you as a Karen amplify the voices of Black people? How can you as a Karen not perpetuate ignorance? Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. How can you not perpetuate controlling images? How can you not reinforce stereotypes? How can you actively, buy back Black debt? How can you actively be proactive in talking to your family members and people that are close to you about supporting Black people and what that looks like and what that means? So I wanted to bring it all full circle, because it's not just about Karens behaving badly. This is about the unjust murders of Black people and how whiteness and white women have perpetuated that. And it sounds like it's too far off. Like, here's point A and here's point B, but it's actually a lot closer than you think. There's probably 1 degree of separation between a Karen and the death of a Black person. That's how much power Karens have. And we want to show you that you have power, but you don't have to use that power for your own good and for your own entitlement. Actually, use your own power for your own good. And you know that that is for your own good because you're in community with people that utilize a framework of inclusion, utilize a framework of love, utilize a framework of using concrete experience, caring, holding yourself accountable, right? That is what we want. So definitely want you to come back for our next sessions. We're going to be having a series of sessions. We're going to be talking to our members about proactive approaches. You know, how can you mediate and de-escalate situations that involve violence before they get there? And if there is a situation, how can you de-escalate that situation? How can you use your body, your physical body, the biopower that you have to prevent violence against Black and brown people? And after something happens or you see something happening, where do you go from there? How do you recover from a situation in which you see a Karen behaving badly? So yeah, that is where we are. I think Dr. Arki is going to talk to you about a little bit about our next sessions, but please feel free to send an email if you have any questions. We are here. We are here for you. Our change of heart and mind is in 2 weeks. And that's moving to eliminate racism. We'll have a panel on that in 2 weeks. And then we will be giving you more information on the sessions. The sessions are free, they're donation-based. So please. And for our resource page, please scroll down our updates and replays page on the Ellipsis website. It's in the chat right now. Dr. Ray put it in the chat. And I will also go forward. So everything that I have here is hyperlinked. You can go and engage with whatever you want to engage with. For our next sessions, we'll have a little bit more of a dialogue. We'll be able to go into small groups and talk about things specifically. We will talk about peppermint patty. We will talk about peppermint patty. We will talk about Cornerstone Caroline. We'll talk about all of those things. And our replay will also be available in the coming days via the same link. So you can also see this and send it to your friends if you would like, and you can be like, hey, I know that you're doing this work and I just thought you would think it's cool. So I'm just going to send this to you. Here's this information. It doesn't have to be like, I think you're a Karen, you should come. You can say, hey, I know that you're into doing this work and I have some people that I know really well. Or I have some colleagues that I know that are really passionate about teaching and doing this work. And I think that you should come to the session. So if you need help and guidance on ways to present this to people, to say, hey, I want you to come to this, please let us know and we'll find ways to placate, I won't say placate, but we'll find a way to ease something radical into their lives. And then once they get there, we'll be like, surprise, Black Lives Matter. But this is the end of our show, our PowerPoint, our presentation, our program. I really hope that you all learned something. Please send us an email, get in contact with Dr. Ray, Dr. Arki, prospective Dr. Ngana, and I, and we will be happy to answer all your questions. We're currently working on the curriculum for our next Not All Karen sessions. We're really excited. We hope that you can come to all 3 sessions, and we hope that you can come to Embracing Heart and Mind, Eliminating Racism, and the Defend Black Women March. Okay, all right, I love you all. Be well, protect Black lives. Bye.